Hello viewers, welcome to Diagnostics. Dio here. Today we have a 2010 Ford E350 with a 5.4 liter. The customer complaint is that the check engine light is on and the vehicle has been losing power. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to confirm the customer's complaint, and then we will connect a scan tool to the car so we can find out what kind of trouble codes we have in memory. So I'm going to start the car so we can confirm the customer's complaint. As you guys can see, the vehicle is running and the check engine light remained on. So right there, customer's complaint confirmed. And I don't know if the camera is going to be able to pick this up, but the vehicle is shaking. It's shaking so bad. So now let's connect the scan tool to the car and find out what kind of trouble codes we have in memory. Alright, so I got the scan tool connected. So this is a Ford. So let's auto ID it. And right there, the scanner has identified the car, 2010 Ford E Series 5.4. And the VIN number looks correct. Let's hit OK. So we can do code scan, which is going to scan all the modules on the car, or we can just go straight to the engine control module. Let's do code scan so we can have an idea of what's going on the other modules. Pre-scan, continue. Let's wait. We wait. Alright, so right there, the scan tool has scanned all the control units on the vehicle, and it looks like we have one trouble code in memory. So in the engine control unit, we have this P0304, cylinder number 4 misfire detected, and the same code is also found in the transmission control module. And let's see if we have any other codes here. We have this C1963, stability control inhibit warning. So we have this code here in the anti-lock brakes control unit. And we have some tire pressure sensor fault. So we're not worried about these other codes because the customer just wants us to fix the check engine light. So we're gonna focus on this P0304 code. So now the next step is gonna be looking at some misfire counters, because these misfire identification cylinders can be wrong sometimes. So I wanna make sure this cylinder number 4 is missing exactly. So let's go back and go to the engine control module and go to data display. Hopefully we have some misfire data here. Okay, cool, right there. Misfire data. So we're gonna focus on cylinder number 4. So right here. I'm gonna start it. Yeah, the vehicle is definitely shaking. Cylinder number 4 misfire counts are counting. So only cylinder number 4 is misfiring. The rest of the cylinders are not. So which is pretty good. That's good information right there. And when we look at history here, so cylinder number 4 was definitely misfiring. We have 305 counts. So now the next step I want to make is I want to put this in clear flood mode just to listen to the sound of the engine. So what I'm going to be listening to is I want to listen and see how the engine sounds, because if there's any inconsistency, I should be able to hear it. Or I can also do a relative compression test on this, but I don't think it's necessary. I'm just going to listen to it. So hopefully the camera is going to pick this up. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm gonna step on the gas pedal and crank it. So I'm stepping to the floor. Now I'm gonna crank it. I hear a nice even sound, a nice consistent sound. I don't think we have a compression issue. So now what I'm gonna do is let me back out of here and identify this cylinder. I want to find where this cylinder lives. Let's see where this cylinder lives. I mean, I can put an amp probe around the one of the battery wires to look at relative compression waveforms here to see, but the way it sounds, I don't think that's necessary because it sounds even and consistent. So I didn't hear any inconsistency there. So now what I want to do is let me go to guided component test. So it's a Ecoline 350 5.4. Let's go to engine. Let's go to ignition system, ignition tests, component information. We should have our firing order here. So right here. So here's our firing order 137266548. And then cylinder number 4, it looks like cylinder number 4 is on bank 1. So it's the last cylinder on this bank right here. And it looks like bank 1 is the bank on the passenger side. So this is a van. The good thing is I can just remove this engine cover here, and our number 4 should be the cylinder right there at the corner, so it's really easy to get to. So now that we know where cylinder number 4 lives, the next step I'm going to make is I'm going to remove this engine cover, and then we're going to go straight to cylinder number 4 and do a engine RPM drop test. So I'm going to disconnect the coil and see if the engine speed is going to change. So I'm hoping we only have a spark plug issue, or maybe a coil issue, or maybe an injector issue. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll bring you guys back up. Alright, so I took the engine cover off, and this is our cylinder. So cylinder number 4 is this one, and we are on the passenger side. So this is the back of the cylinder head. And according to that diagram we saw, cylinder 4 is the last cylinder on the passenger side bank. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start it so we can do an RPM drop test. So the engine is shaking right now. I hope the camera is picking that up. So now I'm going to disconnect this coil. So if this cylinder is contributing to the engine performance, once I disconnect it, the engine RPM should change. So listen. I mean, it's slightly changing, but not much. So now let's disconnect the one next to it. Oh yeah, that one is really contributing. Listen to that. The engine is really shaking right now. So we confirmed that our issue is here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this secondary inductive pickup to look at the waveform on the lab scope to see if this coil is working. So now I'm going to hold it next to the coil. Just right there. I have my pickup right there next to the coil. I can just sit it right there. And let's focus on the screen. And as you can see, we have a waveform. And the waveform looks just fine. So I'm gonna snap the throttle. Just watch it. I mean, the secondary ignition waveform looks good. I don't see anything wrong with it. So now let me look at the injector and see. So I'm gonna back probe the injector. So the injector is right next to the coil. So I'm gonna back probe the injector right now. So right here, I'm gonna turn on our second channel here so I can look at the injector waveform. Let me turn this off for now. So right here, this is our injector waveform, and it looks really good. And I can see the hump right here. Get some detail here. So our injector waveform looks just fine, and I see the pinto hump right here. So this tells me that our injector is opening and closing mechanically. So we don't have an injector issue. And I can turn off this channel so we can look at our secondary ignition probe again. And right there, I mean, I'm turning this off because I'm on a very low voltage scale. If I were to turn the second channel also, I won't be able to see the injector waveform because my trigger is set at a very low voltage compared to the voltage we have on the injector waveform. So I'm just gonna turn it off, and right here, and as I snap it, everything looks good. So it looks like this van is just gonna need spark plugs. Let me snap it so you guys can see. So right there, my secondary ignition waveform looks just fine. So I'm gonna recommend a tune-up for this. I will get all the spark plugs replaced, and then I'll bring you guys back up so I can show you the after shots. But I believe once we replace the spark plugs, this car should be fixed. So it doesn't have a compression issue, it doesn't have a coil issue, and the injector is just fine. So it just needs spark plugs, guys. Or the other thing I could do is I can swap spark plugs. I can remove the spark plugs from cylinder number 4 and put it on a good working cylinder to see if our Misfire is gonna follow the spark plugs. But I feel pretty confident calling for just spark plugs on this based on these waveforms and the tests I just did. I don't have to do that because that's just too much work for nothing, and it's a pain trying to get down there to swap those. So I might as well just do it while I'm replacing the spark plugs. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna get the spark plugs replaced, and then I will bring you guys back up so that we can wrap up this video. Alright guys, so I did replace all the spark plugs on this engine, and I want to show you the spark plug that was on cylinder number 4. So here it is. So the spark plug is completely rusty, and it was wet when I took it out. The spark plug was covered with water. So the spark plug tube was filled with water. The boot of the coil over there was completely soaked. So this is what was causing this one specific cylinder to misfire. I mean, you can see how rusty and weird this spark plug looks. I mean, the tip of the spark plug looks good, but the body of it just doesn't. So this will definitely, I mean, having water in the spark plug tube will cause a cylinder to misfire. No questions about that. So I did a quick visual inspection around the engine cover here to see if the seal of the engine cover is torn or wasn't sealing properly. Everything looks good. I don't know how water ended up in that cylinder, just this cylinder. The other cylinders were completely dry, but this one was wet. So I cleaned it, I blew it off. I replaced the boot on the coil. I did all this off camera because it's just at a weird angle and I couldn't really show what I was doing. So just take my word for it. So now that I replaced the spark plugs, what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect the scan tool to the car, erase the trouble code, and then we're gonna look at our misfire counters and see how this, especially this cylinder, how it's gonna behave. once we clear all the codes and look at the misfire counters, none of the cylinders should misfire. So now let's look at the scan tool and see what we're gonna find. All right, I got the scan tool connected to the car. I'm gonna turn the key on. And now let's scan it. Let's go to scanner. Right here, so the vehicle is saved up here. So this is the most recent vehicle we scanned. It's 2010. Hold on. Right here. 2010 Ford E series. So let's click on that. Right there. So the scan tool has identified the car. It looks good. So that's the car we're working on. Let's hit OK. Now let's just go straight to the engine control module. Trouble codes. So let's go to code menu, memory codes. So these codes here were set because I was disconnecting the cores when I was doing that engine RPM drop test. So we're gonna ignore all of these. I'm gonna clear all of them and see what happens. I mean, you could have just, I could have just guessed it and replaced the spark plugs, and I believe that could have worked because I know that's what the issue is. But I don't believe in guessing, you know. I always believe in testing before replacing components. So let's go to clear codes. Let's clear all of them. Codes cleared. So let's exit out of here. Alright, so the codes are cleared. Let's go back and see if there are any trouble codes. So right here we have a P1000 code. Let's ignore this code right now. I mean, this usually sets if the battery was dead at some point. I don't know if the battery was dead on this van. So let's just ignore these for now. So that code just tells me that most OBD2 testing monitors haven't run yet. So I'm not concerned about those. Let's back out of here and let's go to data display. Let's look at some misfire data. So right there. So I'm gonna start the vehicle. I can already tell that the vehicle is running better. Let's see if the check engine light is off on the dash. And as you can see, the check engine light is off. The vehicle definitely runs a lot better. And on cylinder number 4, this one right here, let me graph it. On cylinder number 4 here, there's one count. I mean, it's not counting. Before it was counting constantly, but it's no longer counting. So I'm gonna take it on a test drive and see what happens. And the engine actually idles a lot smoother now. Let's take it on a test drive and see what happens. All right guys, so I'm back here at the shop. I went on a test drive, and as you can see, cylinder number 4, this one right here, is no longer counting, okay? We have 0 on the current counts, and we also have 0 on the history count. So our misfire has been fixed, and right there the engine runs very good. It's so smooth right now. So this is a fix. Our engine is no longer misfiring. So let's go back and see if we have any trouble codes in memory. So let's do memory codes. And right here, we still have these P1000 codes, but we're ignoring these guys. This just tells me that the OBD2 readiness monitors haven't run yet. So this is gonna take a little while. All the monitors have to run for this code to actually go away. So we're good. This is a fix. No more misfire codes. And our misfiring cylinder, which was cylinder number 4, is no longer counting. So right here, this cylinder right here, it's at 0. I mean, cylinder 3 right now has got 1. But as long as it's not counting, we're not going to worry about that. So 0, 0 on both ends. So we are good, guys. I guess, I mean, I could have just guessed it, like I said, and put a spark plug on it. That could have fixed it. But again, don't just guess, test. Okay? I'm going to leave it right here. I hope you liked this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you got to tell me why. And I hope you learned something. If this is your first time here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Diagnostics. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. And while you're down there, ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. So this was a quick and dirty one, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.